I think most of all, this is a story of regret and guilt. Kitty trusted that her older brother would always be there if she fell, that he would fix things, ultimately, that he would save her. This time, he didn't. Not because he couldn't, but because he couldn't bother. And there is a world of difference between the two. That is what The Last Rung on the Ladder is about. Friends and neighbors, we're talking about The Last Rung on the Ladder by Stephen King. Let's get into it. So, this one is a short story. It's about 20 pages long, and the whole time, the narrator, I don't believe we ever get his name, but the whole time we're looking back on a memory in his life that he shared with his sister Katrina, who is also called Kitty as a nickname. And this one sat with me for a little bit, and it made me sad. It made me tear up a little bit because I think the message here, like I mentioned in the little synopsis I wrote, is that it wasn't that he couldn't save her, it was that he couldn't bother. So I think what I got from this is that sometimes life is hard, sometimes life sucks a lot. And sometimes you just need someone, basically. Sometimes you just need someone to be there for you. And it can be really tough, depending on the kind of person you are, to ask for that help because people have lives, people have other concerns, their own problems that they have to work through. But sometimes reaching out to somebody and having them get back to you, having them come over and having them talk to you or having them visit you, whatever it may be, having them stay on the phone with you until 3 a.m. could be the thing that, in a sense, saves you from an otherwise bad situation. And I was on social media recently and I saw a post where someone said that they had a friend who they reached out to or who reached out to them all the time in the middle of the night, when they needed support. And this person would be there for them. But there came a time when this steady, steadfast friend who had been there for her uh, needed that same kind of support. And the one who had come to her so many times in the past told her, "I'm sleeping, call me back in the morning." And sometimes people don't have until morning. And in this case, in the case of this story, Kitty didn't have the weeks it took for her very last letter to reach her brother, whom up until that point she had always looked at as someone who would save her, would be there for her. And the importance of the flashback that the protagonist had in this short story, I think, is to show you that dynamic. Something impossible happened and somehow he was able to save her. And this time when she really, really, really needed him, he wasn't there for her. He couldn't be there for her because, as I mentioned before, he had his own life. He had been divorced. You know, he was trying to be successful. He was successful. Um, and he had moved so many times that, he had to do the mail forwarding and stuff like that. A lot of people don't do mail forwarding. I know from my time working in the tag and title industry. A lot of people do not do mail forwarding, you know? Mail forwarding is a lost art, apparently. But in any case, um, he had done mail forwarding and had changed addresses so many times, and he didn't get the opportunity to tell her that he had done so. And so when she sent her letter to him, that very last letter, um, it didn't get to him in time. Uh, and therefore, he couldn't save her from a very bad situation. Um, and I think that, in a society where we're always going, where we're always hustling, where we're always, where we basically have this individualistic kind of attitude towards life, things like these happen, and I think that's what really sat with me with this story, is that how real it is. And this is why I love reading stories and reading books and reading classics in general. This isn't a classic, but this is why I love reading classics, because they sit with you. Because whether you're white, black, red, yellow, whoever you are, wherever you're from, you can relate to whatever that classic author was trying to put down. Not because it's super intellectual, not because this is something that you'll find or you'll read or study in an Ivy League university, but because you're human. And that's what we all have in common. And regardless of if you're some guy who turned into a successful lawyer from Nebraska, or whether you're just a girl who just likes reading in Maryland, you can relate uh, to being a human being. A lot of people think that we can't. We have so many things that aren't in common just because we're different skin colors or different cultures. But ultimately, when you boil everything down to the marrow, we're just human beings. And whenever a writer can take that truth and put it down on paper, I think it always transcends the boundaries of the differences we think we have. And so, um, I love Stephen King because he's a very character driven kind of writer. And that's what I enjoy the most about reading, is reading about characters, getting to know these characters, spending time with these characters, because you come out of it feeling something. And that's how I felt reading this 20-page story. Um, so if I had to give it a rating, I think I would give it 5 stars, because I would read it many, many times over, because it just rang so true. And I never want to be that friend or that sibling or whoever that you can't call in the middle of the night, because you just never know how much influence picking up the phone or answering that letter might have on that person's life. That's what I took from this story. I don't really think there's anything else you could take from it, but I want to do more videos like this, where I read little short stories and I kind of talk about them here, give my rating for them, and hopefully, you know, um, hopefully give a recommendation for a short story you might want to pick up, um, because they're very quick. And I do want to continue filming every single day except for Saturday, so 6 days a week. And the only way that's going to be possible is if I have some kind of short form stuff that I can read really quick and then kind of summarize and write, because I'm keeping a book journal this year. So every time I finish a book, every time I finish a short story, I will then go ahead and write down my feelings about it afterwards. That way it's kind of solidified in my mind so that I can go ahead and film these videos. But yeah, that was The Last Rung on the Ladder. I read it real quick. It was just 20 pages. It was small, it was quick, but it packed a punch. So yeah, I hope you have a good day. I hope you have a good evening. And most importantly, I hope you read a good book or short story, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye.